Okay. Right. Let's see. Let's get this back. All right. Perfecto. Compelling but simple stories. We just went on a whole tangent talking about storytelling, but storytelling it's been widely used in the development of brands and products, as well as companies for the longest time, right? The more powerful and important and complex the brand messages are that you're trying to convey, the more important it is that you do so by telling a simple, understandable, relatable story. All right, I'll tie everything together nicely. So, key number one, if you're going to be telling these stories, use visuals, right? Obviously, pictures are worth 1,000 words. That's what we heard so many times. So, words can only do so much, but as you develop, let's say signage, logos, you choose images for the big screens in your general sessions, like pay attention to every picture and every graphic choice. So if you are working on your presentations, right, it's 10 slides, but what are the visuals that you're using? What is the story that's being told over these 10 slides? Can I just follow the images and see where you're going? All right. As your client, what images are we putting out there? All right. Is it important for us to see that your client writes his own music? Is it important for us to know that when your client is working with individuals to create their memories for their wedding? Do we need to see what that consultation is like? Right? It's different. Is it average? Like all of that. Things that you can consider because the end result, the product, yes, that exists, but there's a journey that happens in order to get to that end result. And you can show that through visuals, right? That's how come we can leverage the YouTube era that we're in, where there's so much stuff that exists out there. People are just telling stories about the randomest things. Like you have individuals that decide we are no longer living in a house. We're going to buy an old bus. We're going to make that bus livable, take out all the seats, everything, refurbish it, and we're going to travel across the states in a bus. 100%. You can do that. Now, if you are seeing them build this bus out, knowing that the goal is for them to travel across the states, you might stick around to see that story. If when you meet them, they have a completed bus and they say that they want to travel across the states, you may not follow along because your investment is like they already showed you the end result, right? You said, okay, cool, you got this bus, great. But you didn't see them build it. You didn't see what it took. Right. So sometimes that behind the scenes holds more weight than the finished piece. Right. You can imagine well, I do this for musicians that I follow. If they release an album, I go looking for any behind the scenes clips of them in the studio. I want to know what was it like working with this producer, that producer, putting this feature together. What was that like? Right. The end result is great. I love it, but I want that story. All right. So if you're doing YouTube, then the thumbnail is going to be a vital part of the equation. Yes, the video itself that's up there, that is the finished thing. But the framing, the packaging that we're using, the image in the thumbnail, plus the text in the thumbnail, that pulls me in enough that I want to click it. If I don't click it, I don't watch your video. If I don't watch your video, you don't get the views. If you don't get the views and hold the attention of viewers for a long time, you do not get paid. That's in a YouTube perspective. All right. But use visuals to help with your storytelling. Two, teach your audience something new. Right. If you can educate while being entertaining, you're going to be able to add value. So the average person in Barbados, maybe we have our generation A students, generation A persons. They may not be too familiar or even care about the sugar industry and what that actually meant for us. But maybe they're the type that I want my room to smell nice. If they come across this page, Native Caribbean, and they're seeing the candles on there and they're hearing these stories, maybe, right? Maybe they might stick around. Maybe they might follow the page to hear more about this Barbados that they didn't know existed. But they're able to learn something along the way. She is showing this end result. This is the product. And here's a little bit of the process. We had to go there. We had to go smell stuff. We had to capture the smells. However, they capture smells. I don't know how one captures the smell of sweetbread. I would love to capture that and bottle it, but she's done it. So this could create questions that can then lead to persons being like, I want to learn how to make candles too. I want to learn how to bottle scents too, which can then lead to her, yes, I make candles. I do all of these other things with scents, that things that you can smell, but I'm also a teacher now, right? I can also create like a course. You could learn how to create your own scents. All of a sudden, you got these different avenues happening. This to happen for your client too. Their main thing might be music. Their main thing might be taking these photos. But in them taking the photos, there are people out there that want to do that as well. Your A type, B type, C type goals can all be based on you, and that is fine. But one of your goals, it could even be about other people. What would it look like if your client's A type, B type goals is for themselves, and their C type goal is to empower other people to reach the A type and B type goals that they did for themselves? Right? I don't know. But in your storytelling, teach your audience something new. If they think it's valuable, they will keep coming back for it because it's something that they can use. It's something that they can take and pull into themselves. Yeah. They had an interest, and now with the value, that interest is like locked in. For the first video that I showed you with Teddy Roosevelt and John Muir, talking about the national parks, they're giving you different stories that happened, right? They're showing you these parks exist now, but here's why they exist, right? We had all of these open spaces. We didn't know what to do with them. We didn't know how we're going to maintain them. This person that loves nature had somehow, some way met with the president. And in order to get the president to really understand what's going on, Mr. President, you got to come with me into the wilderness. Like, I can't explain this to you in the Oval Office. We got to be out in nature. So said, they were able to figure out a whole bunch of stuff. Number 3, emotion is a key ingredient. All right. So the director of that first film, he said, this is by far the most important. You need to emotionally connect with your audience. All right. We mentioned this in the Making a Great PowerPoint presentation. And one of these slides said, connect emotionally with your audience. What can we say? What can we share that evokes memories, that evokes feelings in that audience? Native Caribbean does a great job. Sweetbread, the smell of sweetbread out of the oven, we know that feeling. All right. Know that feeling. Is there anything that your client can do to speak to the feeling? That can come back to framing. If your client is that wedding photographer, there are 2 ways that you could talk about taking photos at someone's wedding. Like, yeah, I can take amazing photos for you. They're going to be well lit. Right? I want to make sure that you're both in focus. I can get up to 10 people in a photo, no problem. The way that I arrange them, this is all going to be great. While that is important, those technical things I really don't care about when I'm talking about my wedding. You know what I mean? Talk to me about capturing all the moments that happen naturally throughout the day. Talk to me about when the flower girl is going down the aisle and she's throwing the petals, that you're going to be able to capture those petals in midair while keeping the person walking. Show me, tell me that you're going to get the smiles of the mother and the father of the bride as she walks up the aisle or whatever. Sell me on those emotions. You get me locked in emotionally, then and be like, yo, okay, all right, sounds good, right? There's a difference. Key three in telling your story. And you can tell your story not just in video, you can tell the story in your captions. All right. So that's where I would say, like, even in the social media project, your captions can also help. So if you just tell me like you're in the studio and all your caption says is another day, another studio session, okay, cool. That's factual, right? But if you could pull me in with some sort of emotion, then I might like it a little more. Key number four, surprise the audience. Is there anything that you can show? Is there anything that you can share? Give them something that they didn't know before. All right. Now, yeah, that would be great. The documentary that I showed you guys, what it did is they showed a lot of national parks, right? And when we think of a park, we will think about trees, green, right? Flowers, grass. That's what we were going to think about. But the United States also has places that are really high in elevation. Some places have ice. They are national parks that exist in an icy environment. They are part of the national parks. But because we're not going to be expecting to see ice, because we don't naturally think that ice is a park vibe, when you see it in there, you're like, wait a minute, okay, well, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I wasn't expecting it, but that makes sense. And now you're going to, as the editor, you're going to be like, all right, cool. We're going to give them stuff that they expect at the front. But somewhere along the middle where they might be losing focus, we're like, okay, another park that's green, wonderful. We might throw in, here's a green park that has a geyser. You weren't expecting that. Now here's a white park. Here's a park that's always snowy. Like, what? I wasn't expecting that. And then back to green. You can throw in things that are unexpected in order to regain the attention of your audience. Right? That's like me doing a 3 hour class, and at 2.5 hours, I tell you guys, like, look, you know what? For right now, when y'all get back, I want everybody in a bonnet. Right? What does a bonnet have to do, if anything? Nothing. However, if we have a sudden burst of energy because you're like, look at this man talking about getting a bonnet, and then sir gets a bonnet, not just a bonnet, not a black bonnet, a leopard print bonnet. You know what I mean? That's something unexpected. And all of a sudden, I can get another 5-10 minutes of attention out of you.
Yeah,
I'm
you
sorry.
nigga want to know what going on.
Right? Yeah. So that's another thing that you can do. You could do that with your content as well. You could do it with your presentations. Depending on the topic that you're speaking on, you can find an image that it relates, but it's on the far side of relatability. You're like, what is this? It's like in the presentation we were talking about the slides. I had that slide that had the image of the cat, but then it also had text that wasn't worded how it should be, right? It was kind of backwards and upside down and all sorts of stuff. You can do some of that on purpose if you know where you're going, right? So surprise your audience. 5, if you can, make them laugh, right? Laughter is great. Laughter is like, okay, I want to be around here for at least another 2 minutes. Laughter is great, right? That is you taking your time, being fun. Don't force it. Please don't force it. If there's nothing funny about what you're saying, don't, you know what I mean? Don't try to force a joke. But you might find something that's light and that would balance out the topic that you're talking about, right? Number six, know your audience and know the platform. Okay. So the documentary that I showed you, that was uh that was about a 40-minute, you know what I mean, recreation of a moment type documentary. However, in order to get 40 minutes of film, they had to obviously film hundreds of hours of footage in order to put that together. Because, you know what I mean, you need to have the footage of whatever you are shooting so that you're good to go. You have what you need, you could chop it up, you could edit it in order to tell the story. Um, and that was that. Now, 1000, that's the second video that I showed you. The artist that was doing the mural on the wall, he keeps his videos around 20 minutes, right? That's the length of the video that goes up on YouTube. Is he doing hours of footage? Possibly a couple hours, but the number of hours is going to pale in comparison to what is needed for a documentary, right? He is doing voiceovers, so he can just shoot stuff, right? We would call that B-roll, right? Or for the sake of what he was doing, it was definitely a whole lot of A-roll with a little bit of B-roll. B-roll is just the extra stuff, right? A-roll is the main footage that is needed to tell this story. So as you are working with your client, if you hire someone as a shredditor, someone that follows them and whatever they're doing, you capture that content and then later on you edit it to put it back out to share with other people to add value, then that's a process that you can work with. But you need to know the audience, right? Are the people that you're hoping to connect with willing to sit around and watch 20 minutes of content? Or are they type that they just need 90 seconds? And who do you want to speak to most? Do you want to speak to the 90-second crowd? Or do you want to have people stick around for 20 minutes, an hour, right? The difference between a full podcast and an Instagram reel. If you're a motivational speaker, can you add value to someone in 30, 60, 90 seconds? Absolutely. It's a soundbite, but you could definitely do that. But because you can do it in 90 minutes, does that mean that you don't want to be booked to speak at Sagicor's next corporate event? Absolutely not. You probably would prefer it, right? I want to be booked to speak for 45 minutes. I want that. But that's going to come from knowing your client, knowing who you want to speak to. I want to speak to these rooms. I want to speak to large masses of people and inspire them to change, inspire them to move, inspire them to become more. Because I want to reach those audiences, I don't have the access right now. I need to become known. So my A-type goal, I need to become known. What am I going to do? I'm going to put out 30, 60, 90-second pieces of content. Why? So that the people that are floating around on the internet that love motivational content, they're eventually going to stumble across me. They're going to stumble across my little sound bites. They're going to be like, oh man, that's a bar. Every time I put up something, they're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Love that. That's the energy I need on my Monday morning. Right? But you as a marketer, you speak to that motivational speaker and you tell them, like, listen, we will put out those videos, but I also want you to tell your story. Why is this important? Why is this important? All right.
So she could become relatable?
Hey, but why do you want to be relatable?
I mean, the more
right?
relatable, the more people that will follow you, right? Because you're closer or more related to regular people that do regular things.
True, but I need you to get deeper, right? I need you to get deeper. Like, there's a reason why your client wants to become a motivational speaker to begin with, right? Was your client inspired by a motivational speaker? Was your client at a low point in their life? And because of hearing someone else's words, they too want to be that person for someone else? I don't know. Is it that during their whole school life, persons always somehow used to end up on her lap in tears? And she was always the person to talk to them and be like, yeah, you know what? Maybe XYZ, da, 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 you could try, blah, 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 blah. She was always that person. People just found her and started pouring out their soul. She was always a person that people would, she's the best person to listen. Maybe along the way, someone told her that, look, people seem to be naturally drawn to you. And when you speak to them, they seem to take what you say and actually act on it. You're like, I don't be trying to give advice, but I'm just listening. Based on listening, I say something and stuff happens. I don't know, right? But when you figure out that deeper meaning, that now frames the thing that you're doing in a better way, right? It's like packaging. You get a gift, but the gift comes in a box. You could put that box in some wrapping paper. When I see the wrapping paper, I'm going to have an impression. When I take off the wrapping paper and I see the actual packaging, I'm going to have an impression on what this thing is. But then I get down to it and I get the actual physical thing. I'll be like, okay, cool. I'm either going to be, I could feel disappointed by the wrapping paper, disappointed by the packaging, and then be like, oh, wow, the product is amazing. But I can also be like, I'm in awe with the packaging. I'm in awe with the wrapping paper. And then my mind is blown by the product. All right. But not everyone thinks all the way through. You ever put a gift in an old box? Like, you might be saying, like, all right, I want to give this person this gift, but I want it to feel like it's trash. So I bought them an iPhone, but I can put it in a mouse box. Yeah, ever got a present like that? I sure somebody uncle did this to you. Somebody aunt.
Nah.
No, just me. Okay, all right.
Sir, I get a Coach handbag in a period in a pad box.
Okay. Was it in wrapping paper before you got to the period box?
I think it was, yeah, I think it was wrapped like a regular gift. And then when I
Right.
opened it, it looked like a box of pads.
And how did you feel?
I laughed really, 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 really bad.
Right.
It's funny, very funny.
Okay. You were laughing before you got to the coach bag, or after you get to the coach bag, you
Yeah,
then found it funny.
I didn't know it was in the box. So I was just laughing because the box was taped, right? So I was just laughing at the effort. Like, you do all of this. Like, I know it's not a pass because I can hear something moving in the box, right?
Right.
Yeah, I thought it was funny.
Yeah. Right. So there are different ways that you could go about it, but this is knowing your audience. Like, if you know who you want, who you're giving this stuff to, you can try different things. But then the platform is, all right, where are you showing up? Right. If you want to work with these people at Sagicor, where you're talking for like 45 minutes at a time, then you may want to be somewhere where they can experience that as well. Right. So that's how that goes. Number 7, music matters. Jamal mentioned this earlier up in the call when he heard the background music for the video at 1000. Music matters, right? Music is one of those things that just moves you, even if you don't want to be moved. Like, sometimes you just can't help it, right? And music is going to do that. Sound is going to allow that to happen. Now, Does every does everything you do need to be thought out from the top to the bottom? It doesn't have to be, but depending on the result that you're looking to have, depending on the journey you want to take your client, your audience on, you may consider it. We did a class 2 weeks ago where we talked about Foley. We talked about if people are walking through grass, your mind is going to want to hear the sound of the grass. So you can either A, leave it out because you know what? Walking through the grass is not important to the message that I'm actually sending. Or you be like, yo, listen, I just want them to feel completely immersed in this space right now. So I'm gonna add some grass, add some birds. It's going to be so low that you don't really hear it, but you subconsciously are going to hear it. There's a difference. There's absolutely a difference. All right. There's Native Caribbean. They went to the plantation and they shot it. You could do that, or you could shoot the thing in the studio and use AI to generate the environment. Now, there's a difference. There's a difference between those two. Right. And sometimes you can't beat the real thing, not because the image quality of the AI isn't amazing, but the story of actually going and actually being there, that creates the difference. If two people are talking about the same product, being in the environment, talking about it amongst everything else, if you're truly passionate about it, it's going to change the way people hear what you're talking about. All right. So music matters, audio matters. Someone
I
saying
was
something, Joshua? Yeah, go
I
ahead.
was
Go
wanting to
ahead.
say something if possible. I was
Yeah.
thinking that the atmosphere behind the actual distillery is going to be completely different than what the AI is most likely to generate. So I think that is going to have a different feel, a different look. The AI could pull things together. However, the AI can't replicate unless it knew of the plantation for St. Nicholas Abbey. So I think that yeah, the actual space has a lot to do in terms of people will perceive the final product of your video or your product release.
Yeah, 100%. Right. And sometimes those are things that you need to consider. All right. You need to consider because there's a lot more going into the experience than just the end result. Apple has this thing where they make their packaging. Their packaging always has this slow reveal. All their packaging. You buy a Apple Watch from them, you get your nice white box. When you're trying to get it open, you can be here shaking forever, but it can still do this little slow, little nice little reveal, right? Why? They did their packaging with unboxing videos in mind. Did they have to do that? No. But if they think about who's going to get this, the average person, yes. Who else is going to get this? People doing tech videos. Do I want positive tech videos out there for me? Absolutely. So let me do this. You could do that for your client as well. So now that we're talking about releases, did you guys see this film on Netflix, Enter Galactic?
I saw you promote it last time, but I didn't get a chance to watch it.
Okay. All right. So anybody else on the call? Did you guys watch this? Enter Galactic. It's on Netflix. If you don't have Netflix or you don't have your friend's Netflix, get it and watch it. All right. Now, what if I told you this film was actually an album release?
Based off
This
the
isn't
branding, I actually could see it.
right. This was, let's say, an hour and a half. It's animated. It's like in a similar style to Enter the Spider Verse. It's a interesting love story situation. Kid Cudi, he actually produced this film, but it took 5 years to produce, but the music in it is just based on this new album that he has, right? But he did the music first, and then instead of just rolling it out like an album, he said, "You know what? I want to create, I want to create more memories. I want to tie more emotion to the music itself, subconsciously." So you did the film so that the songs, the scenes in the film work perfectly with the music, so that when you see what's happening, you're hearing the music in the background, but then you also see this emotion that's happening in the film itself. So it's now hitting you three ways. Yeah. So you did a whole animated film for this to happen, right? People don't do that. Like, I don't know anyone else who did that. It's different to having releasing the album and then having music videos that are films. That's one thing. Like Michael Jackson music videos are crazy. But if you have an entire film that is literally your album, that's something different. Okay. Um, so again, yes, music matters. But by having these visual scenes tied to romance as well, um, tied to romance, there's inner turmoil and all that in there as well. So even if you go on YouTube, you just check the trailer, look for the trailer for Intergalactic, and you get an idea of the vibe of this. But it was a good watch. Like, it was a good watch for sure. What else? All right. Now the last three things. So I gave you some keys, but then last three things, which would be stealing like an artist, don't underestimate your audience, and then leave them with more questions and answers. So if you're going to steal like an artist, there's a whole book about this. And I know we spoke about copyright before. So with stealing like an artist, like we can agree that is really not really an original idea, but you don't need to be a special snowflake, right, to craft a very interesting, compelling story. A good storyteller can tell a story that we've seen multiple times, but from a new and unique angle. Like, how many times have we seen the story of Romeo and Juliet? Like, this story is still being told. All now. All these love story, all these rom-coms that we see where the two families don't agree, they don't like each other, but they got two people that are trying to see each other and all this other stuff. Romeo and Juliet, 100%. Right? We have the underdog story. We've seen that so many times. You could do underdog in sports, underdog through boxing, swimming, cycling. You could do underdog as a police officer. You could do, I think that's a series. Like, there's like a show where this guy is the oldest recruit to the police department has ever seen. He's an underdog. We know the story. We know how this ends, but we still watch it and people still produce it. Right. But your job as a storyteller and a filmmaker, or just a storyteller, is how can we talk about one thing? How can we create something that's familiar, but reframe it, repackage it as something completely fresh? Native Caribbean, candles. People know about candles. People know about reed diffusers. But her packaging, her framing is what makes her product amazing. Right? And here's the thing. If someone else comes around doing something where they talk about all of these Bajan stories and how the Bajan stories impact what they're doing, it's going to give Native Caribbean, unfortunately, unless you find a different way to speak about being inspired by Barbadian stories. Maybe. All right. So you could be inspired by many people. You have songs that take a line from another song, sample it, but then they turn it into something completely new. Have you guys been hearing those 1950s style songs to rap songs? If you haven't, I got a whole playlist. I got like 15 songs and I love them so very much. Anywho, all right. So don't underestimate your audience. Um, our audience is smart, right? We've seen a lot. So yeah, don't treat your audience like they're dumb. That may not work out for you. All right. You want to tell the story that you want to see. And if it's from the heart, like if you really put yourself in there, people will feel it and they can respect that. But don't go, I'm creating this rom-com and it has to be this way, it has to be these type of people because you know people like it. So you're doing it because people like it, not necessarily because you think it's a story that's worth watching. All right. Finally, we talked about surprising our audience already. Um, but yeah, if you could leave on a cliffhanger, that's a great way to go. Leave people wanted more. Leave people like, is there going to be a sequel? Because I don't think this is done. I wasn't even ready for this movie to end. I didn't realize we're 2 hours in, right? If you get that happening, amazing. If you're working with your client and he's a musician at the end of the set, people are like, one more song, one more song. All right, cool. Got you. Then that's a great place to be. All right. So if you can, you leave them with more questions and answers, then you have something special. All right. So again, you have a product, you talk about it in a way that you create that intrigue, then there's so many more questions that start coming up. Like, oh my gosh, why did you think about that? Like, does it work for cheesecake? Can we do cheesecake candles? Can we do I have so many favorite smells. Is that possible? Amazing. All right, fam. So that has been storytelling. And this has been our time. 7:44 in Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. I know I spoke a lot, a whole lot. I'm working on that actually. I found a way that I can make these things more engaging, but you guys unfortunately won't get to experience that side of things.